Welcome to Lykken on Lending, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the mortgage industry. Your host, David Lykken, bringing you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, this show is your go-to source for all things mortgage. Let's get started. This is Lykken on Lending. Now your host, David Lykken.
Listeners, we're back with Pavan Agarwal with another AI update. And are these ever being successful? I was just looking at the numbers. It's really drawing a lot of attention. Pavan, I wanted to say thank you for doing these on a regular basis. A lot of people are tuning in, are learning about AI. So give us a little, you're on camera here. So those who are listening to this, he's wearing a blue jersey. We were just back in Dallas. Pavan, talk about the blue jersey and why you're wearing it.
Yeah, so we had a great day 2 weeks ago, and we did the painted blue Dallas because Japan was playing for the World Cup, and that day they were playing. I think it was Japan versus who was playing this that day? Shoot, it was a tie. It was a tie game.
Yes,
because I just came from Philly and I watched the France versus Paraguay.
Yeah,
and it was Japan versus I forget who it was.
I forget. Yeah, but anyway,
so anyways, it was a tie game, so it was a great day. But what's more important is that the same day we had, or the day prior, we had the Mindset Summit in Dallas at the Cowboys Club, which, as you know, during FIFA takes over the whole Cowboys Frisco area. And we had to pull some strings to get the Cowboys Club given to us for the Mindset Summit. It was like a wow event.
Another wow event with speakers. And every time I think you've outdone yourself on speakers, or there's a new group that shows up and they're even more dynamic. I can't wait to have some of these on, and I want to talk about that. But you recently published an article last week in the Forbes magazine, and it's titled "The AI Execution Gap: Why CEOs Miss the Mark and How to Get It Right." This is a really well-written article, Pavan, and there's some things I want to talk about. Why the title?
Well, it's because, the article cites a PwC report that shows that only 12% of all of the initiatives that the industry is taking across the full spectrum, not just mortgages, but from manufacturing through tech, only 12% are actually succeeding in implementation of AI, where by succeeding means you're improving service and lowering cost, okay? And for most companies, they're just increasing cost and in some cases, worsening service.
Yeah, by the way, I want to interject there. For some people don't know what PwC, what we're talking about there, it's PricewaterhouseCoopers, and it's the report you're referring to is the 29th Global CEO Survey. There's a big survey and very credible, and what you're talking about, things are getting broken into two camps.
Yes, exactly. And so the 12% is the camp A, which is actually succeeding with AI, and the remaining 88% is struggling with it, and many of those will fail. And there was another study, I think, by the Gartner report that says 50% of all AI implementations this year will be very expensive, right? Very expensive relative to those companies, and they will roll it back next year. So it's a double whammy. One, you burn through a lot of money. Second, you have to roll it back. It's sort of like, I don't know if you've seen those reports about Meta and
yes,
I think it was Microsoft or somebody, that they had to put a stop on for restrictions on usage of AI because they have these huge bills of, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in a month because their employees went crazy with AI, and these massive data center bills they got, they didn't expect it, right? And that didn't translate to actual productivity. So they had to put a stop on it. So if you don't know what you're doing with AI, you will burn through a lot of money. And so the bottom line of the Forbes article is that if you don't know what you're doing with AI, if it isn't a well-planned integral strategy and part of your company from the top down, that means that the C-suite has to understand the limitations, not the capabilities, but the limitations. Okay, and we've had a number of podcasts where I've talked about that. Limitations are more important than the capabilities, because that way you know where to spend your money and where not to spend your money. Most importantly, you know where not to spend your money. And if the C-suite has to understand that, and then they have to take a fresh look and retool their organizations to be AI based, right? because you cannot just take your existing workflows and slap AI on it and say that, okay, now we're an AI company and now we're going to be much more productive and save all this money, because all that happens is you end up creating more confusion and complications, and AI is expensive, and you end up burning through a lot of token costs.
Yeah, well, and what's interesting in this article, you said the data is sobering. A staggering 64% of private equity and principal investors in this report says they've had absolutely zero impact on the costs for their AI initiatives over the last 12 months. 82% said no impact on revenue, which is what everyone's trying to look for. They're trying to get that. Overall, only the 12%, the Vanguard group you were just talking about, is successfully achieving that. And you get into the trap of the AI or the experimental AI. What were you talking about there?
Okay, yeah. So, experimental AI, to a lot of people, that's like agentic AI. And a lot of people listening to this thing would have heard that term agentic AI, and then they believe, and it's marketed as if instead of hiring employees, you hire AI agents, in effect, quote unquote, hire AI agents, which is large. Yeah, it's for the most part, it's kind of true, but it doesn't exactly work that way. It isn't as if like I have somebody doing my payroll and I'm going to just replace that person with an AI agent and poof, it's that simple. It doesn't work that way. It's like with any technology, there are actual limitations. And when you try to replace a person doing a payroll with an AI agent, you have to understand what the limitations are, and you have to re-engineer a complete process to be an AI-based process. And we saw a lot of that in the .com era, where you have to re-engineer your company to be internet-based e-commerce delivery, right? That's why Amazon is the biggest retailer in the planet and Walmart is number 2. When you would have thought that something like Walmart should have taken over number 1, and right, because Amazon from the ground up is engineered to work for internet e-commerce. So it's the same thing with, you take a legacy company and and CEOs, C-suites, they want a silver bullet. There's no silver bullets, right? This stuff is hard. This is transformative, and it is a complete redefinition of your organization. Okay, and to say, okay, go and tell the different, to kind of give a top-down directive, okay, and tell the different leaders within the organization, go use AI and see what you can do with it. That's not a strategy, and that's what everyone's been doing. That's not a strategy. And just to tell the leaders and tell the staff, well, go start using agents and let's see how much money we can save. That's not a strategy.
Is this what you said? You had a quote. In my experience, many executives are stuck in what can be called pilot purgatory. By the way, I cracked up on that. They deploy AI at a service level bolt-on. Is that what you're talking about right there?
That's right. And again, because there isn't a directed vision from the top,
right?
Other than we're missing out. Go take advantage of this stuff, and then so you have different team leads either buying pilots or buying pilot products from third parties or trying to set up their own pilots. Okay, and the big confusion with AI is you can create a pilot, right? What would normally have taken months and expensive engineering to get a prototype working, you can create that in an hour, maybe less than an hour. Okay, but now so when you create the prototype, you think, oh my God, I'm done. Well, what happens is then you spend the rest of your time trying to integrate it into your processes, trying to make it stable, trying to make it consistent, and you end up spending a lot more time trying to take it from pilot to production.
Good.
Okay. And people don't understand that, and I don't blame them. Like if someone spent 30 minutes, an hour, and generate a website, and I'm like, hey, it's done. Amazing. Okay. And you think that should be it, but there's so much more to it. Like, cause you have to that website that you created has to integrate with the enterprise databases and enterprise workflows. And that's where you end up in the purgatory because there's these million other problems you gotta step through, and then you gotta bring in new experts to complete that integration. Right. So, for example, right, we have something called Angel Agents. Okay. And which is basically Angel AI integrating with OpenClaw. And that gives you access to the massive global suite of agents. And we have a few of our partners, like All in Lending, that is using it. That's on our test environment, and they're using it. And I just got a text from Chuck I think it was this morning. He said, I built a web page in less than an hour, and he built it himself. And he's never coded in his life,
I know.
right? And he built his own website within an hour, right? And he's able to do that and successfully move forward because Angel Agents is integrated into the Angel AI ecosystem, okay, and it's talking and connected with your whole loan database, your whole loan process. So he can do that in an hour and it actually works, and he can move forward, okay. But if you're an enterprise and you just tell your different people to go do stuff with AI and create stuff, there's going to be this massive problem when you take those, whether it's web pages or whether it's a online ordering system or whatever, invoice management or inventory management or whatever, and they had an AI agent do it. Now the problem is that, okay, now I got to integrate this with my database, and if this thing decides it wants to update my inventory balance or transfer money to a bank account, that's really scary when real money, when it touches it and tries to move real money around or real inventory around, which is real money, then that's where the hard part comes. That says, okay, how do we test this? How do we make sure it doesn't ever mess that up, right? And that's the purgatory is that post prototype, right? Post production of the prototype. Now you actually have to make it work with the enterprise. It takes twice as much engineering to figure out what the AI generated and how to integrate it smoothly and safely and securely, right? And the other things you have to really test. And there's many reports that have come out about this where tech companies have been using agents to generate code and generate software, and then they end up spending twice as much time with senior developers going back in and cleaning up all the security holes and all the things that it didn't think about.
It's interesting. Isn't the whole objective to fundamentally alter the core workflow? You talk about this in the article, and it's supposed to reduce headcount in theory, accelerate core transactions, and reduce operational costs. Now, you got that going on with Angel AI, but we're not seeing that happening with many of the systems. Only 12%. Is that what you said in the article or the study?
Yep. The studies, the PwC study said 12%, and I would wager that if we really dig into that, right, and we see where we stack up on there, we'd probably be in the 0.1% of the 12%. We're in the tip of that spear. I'm not aware of anyone, any organization, any industry that has let their company run completely on AI, right? We're the only ones I travel the world and I've searched high and wide to see who's doing what and trying to understand what's going on in the marketplace. And no one's figured out how to run an entire enterprise and delegate that entire manufacturing process to an AI. We're the only ones that figured out, and this is why we have so many patents on the product, because we can execute expensive, high stakes transactions with the AI, and that's what you need to run a production facility, right? Like, for example, if you were to use an AI, for example, to control your oil refinery, okay, then it needs to understand that, if I turn this knob, the AI says I turn this knob and I increase the amount of gas going into this pipe, I could blow up the plant, right? It needs to know, when to increase and when to decrease. Are you going to let an AI make that control automatically, right?
Yeah.
And if it guesses it wrong, if it gets it wrong, your plant, is going to blow up, right? And the same thing in the mortgage business. Right? If you're letting an AI make an underwriting decision, if you're letting an AI say, look, we can exclude this debt, or we don't need another bank statement, or I only need 1 year's tax return, I don't need 2 years tax returns, whatever it is, if it gets that wrong, guess what? You got a repurchase on your hands. You've got to scratch in that loan. Even worse, you could end up denying a borrower that deserves that credit. Okay, yeah, right? So, yes. So this is what a deterministic AI means. And what it means is when you design an organization with the clear vision of an AI-based production facility with an AI management. So you got to have the vision, and then you have to have the technology, and you have to have people who understand how to use the technology, understand the limits of technology, and then your entire workflow is built with that technology.
Is this what you're talking about when that part of the article you say building a transactional revolution?
Yes, exactly. A transactional revolution is everything I just explained, which is an AI that can process transactions that just like your self-driving car. You don't think about your self-driving car as a series of transactions, but it really is, right? In computer geek terms, it's transactions, because you have some input, something in the camera. Camera senses the dog right in front of the car, right? There's a transaction that happens at that point. The data is there's an potential obstacle in the car, and the decision is to press the brakes, or the decision might be to veer right or veer left, right? That's a single transaction, right? And you got to be able to make these real-time transactions, in microseconds, with data coming at you, through a fire hose, like so much data coming at you at the same time. And you got to be able to make these decisions really fast. That's a transactional revolution right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm thinking about the Jennifer interview that I did. It says the patent that changes AI forever from probabilistic to warranted intelligence. Now, in your article, you talk about generative AI to deterministic AI or decision intelligence, but it is actually, in the case of Angel AI, warranted.
Correct. So warranted that's essential, because when you, as a mortgage broker or as a consumer, as a realtor, go into Angel AI and you give it pay stubs, and you upload some pay stubs and say, hey, based on these pay stubs, what is my qualifying income? And if Angel AI comes back and says your qualifying income based on these pay stubs is $5,000 a month. Okay, we're going to stand behind that $5,000. It's not like there's not going to be anybody, a QC department or an underwriter. There's no more humans are going to look at that. Okay, and we're not going to say, oopsie, oh no, we meant 4,500. Sorry, we'll take that back. And everyone who's watching this, every mortgage broker, everyone who originated a loan who's watching this, I guarantee you it's happened to you more than once, many times, where you've been told, based on income documents or bank statements or whatever, that we can do X, that the income is $5,000 a month. And then when it goes to underwriting, right, and the underwriter reviews it and she knocks it down to 4,500, now your whole deal is blown up, right? That has happened so many times. It happens every single day to loan officers all over the country. But in this case, you give the AI the information, and in minutes, it's going to come back and say, here's a qualifying income. And then that's it. You don't have to second guess that, because there's real money behind that. There's a warranty behind that. And I'm going to honor it. Right? And that changes the whole world and the whole way you do mortgages. Because when you actually have dependable, reliable, when you have a process where you can count on the words that are given to you, right? When you have an AI that you can bank on, right? Now you have to rethink and retool how you do this business. Okay. So one of the conversations we have with our clients all the time is we're saying, like, you're an AI originator now, right? How you do things has completely changed. Let's go out and get more business. Because the classic workflow is you interview a borrower, you take documents, then you hand it over to your processor, and then your processor reviews it carefully and thinks about it, and maybe asks the borrower for more information, and prepares as perfect a file as possible before submitting it to underwriting, because the processor doesn't want to get penalized for having conditions from underwriting. Right. And that's like totally, ass backwards. Excuse my language here. Right. It's like, why are we asking processors to be underwriters? That's, if let's just have processors to be processors. What that means is go and communicate with the consumer, right? Help them understand the technology, communicate with the consumer, keep them happy, keep them excited, keep them motivated, and keep them sending the documents that are needed. And as soon as you get a document, put it in the AI, let the AI in minutes will tell you what the income is, or what the balance you can use, or what the ratios are, or whatever it is, right? Let the AI tell you that whether it's acceptable, not acceptable, and you just keep on going. So let's go back to redoing workflows with AI.
Okay.
So this is kind of, I'm talking about this. I'm talking about what processors are doing wrong, what brokers are doing wrong, being AI brokers, because and that speaks directly to the heart of what I wrote in that Forbes article, is when you're an AI company, right, then all the old ways of doing things have to go out the window, and the reason is in the old ways of doing things without AI, you have all of these restrictions on you, all these training wheels on you. And now you've been doing it for so long, you've gotten used to being confined in that box. Okay. And when you're doing AI, all that box is gone and you're free and you can fly, right? And you can fly out of your cage, but you're still staying in your cage because you think the cage is still there, right? Even though it's been removed. Okay. And so, because like we've had situations where brokers have put in loan documents or, credit documents into the AI, and AI came back right away and approved it or declined it or, whatever, made decisions and told them what to do. Right. And they're like, oh, it's broken. We're like, oh, why do you think it's broken? Because it came back too fast. There's no way it could have done this quickly. Like, no, it's done. This is what you need. Do this and let's close this loan file. Right.
Yeah.
So, right. So
adjustment for people used to this.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big adjustment, and you got to redo the way you have to redo the way you change. Sorry, you have to redo your entire process workflow, right? And you have to reprioritize what's important for your staff, right? So if you're a mortgage originator, what's important for your loan processor is no longer keeping an underwriter happy, right? Because now the underwriter is AI, and it's not going to be unhappy or happy with you. It just wants the information, and it's going to tell you right away, right? And you don't have to worry about keeping the underwriter happy, and because underwriters get grumpy if you piecemeal it to them, right? Well, this is an AI. It keeps track of whatever. So as soon as you get something, give it to the AI, and the AI is going to review it on the spot because it always has the information about all of the loan in his mind all the time. So you get something, give it to the AI, right? It's that easy so that you can focus on communicating with the borrower and making sure the borrower is motivated to the whole transaction, right? And that the borrower has a good relation. The processor's main job is making sure that the borrower's satisfied and has a positive opinion of his loan officer and a positive opinion of his realtor. That's the number one job of the processor. It is not to make sure the processor's job is no longer to make sure that the underwriter has a good opinion of the processor, because that's the old paradigm, right? The old paradigm processors are completely focused on making sure the underwriters are happy with them so that they don't get in a penalty box. And the new paradigm, the processor should be completely focused on the customer satisfaction of the borrower and the realtor.
Totally makes sense. You talk in this article about too many CEOs are delegating their AI strategy to their IT departments rather than leading from the C-suite, and they're treating software. I mean, talk a little bit about what you're seeing so many of these people. One of the things, audience, I really enjoy about Pavan as a human being, he's not just talking about the success he's having in Angel AI. He's genuinely trying to help the industry roll out, implement AI in an effective, intelligent manner. So it's a big mistake. I've seen it happen where they say, IT, get this. You talked about business process, how we have to approach this from re-engineering our entire workflow, the way we go about the business.
Yeah, I mean, let me think of a good example. If you're a shipping company, okay, you don't just tell your procurement department, go buy some trucks, right? Because they have because you can have your head of procurement, your chief procurement officer, given the instruction, go buy some trucks. Okay, he's not going to execute that well because that requires vision from the chief executive officer, because he's running it. He understands the big picture of the shipping company. He knows what kind of trucks he needs. He knows how many he needs, right? He knows how far they're going and all of these things, right? He knows the limitations
right
of his business, right? So he's gonna you work with the chief procurement officer and you work collectively together. And you have to start with a vision of this is what I'm going to do with the trucks. And then you work with the chief procurement officer so that you can get the right trucks to run your business effectively. Okay. The same thing. The C-suite can't just go to their CTO. The CEO cannot just go to the CTO and say, go give me some AI. Because why? Because everyone else is doing it. Right? That doesn't work because the CTO, as brilliant as he may be, he doesn't have the same bird's eye view that the CEO does. He doesn't know the vision, the direction. He doesn't know what kind of AI. What do you want to do with it? What are the goals? What workflow are you trying to affect? And what metrics do you want to deliver? Right? Without that kind of understanding, what is your immediate vision and what is your long-term vision? Okay. And it isn't as simple as, let's just go buy some AI and throw it in there, right? That it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's so important that you have a clear vision on this, and most people are not getting down to a complete re-engineering of the whole process.
Exactly. Bottom line, there's no shortcut. And if you're a CEO listening to this, you got to go do your homework. You got to go learn this stuff and understand it yourself so that you can, and when you understand the fundamentals and understand how this stuff works, you can construct a vision and you can say, hey, with this, this is the vision of my company, how I'm going to do it. And then your CTO comes in and builds it out to your vision. Right? So there's been a number of articles, a number of, one-man, two-man billion-dollar companies with AI, because the one or two people that started those companies started with a clear vision that I'm going to use AI to deliver this kind of service. And they realized that they could just build the business, with AI agents and started doing volume. There was a company, I just read about it. The name escapes me, but this guy, one-man show, and he had $1 billion in sales in a quarter. And because of he had a clear vision, and he understood the limitations of AI and understood what it could do and implemented it and delivered it to his customer base.
Wow, amazing. In the article, you talk about shifting from vanity metrics to value metrics.
Correct. Yes. So vanity metrics is, again, having bragging rights that I'm an AI company. I'm AI forward, right? Whatever, I don't know what the latest buzzwords are. And vanity metrics is just like, I'm an AI company because I just spend $1 billion building data centers, right? I've seen statements like that thrown around. I'm an AI company because we burn, 1 million tokens a month, right? Those are great vanity numbers. Those are great, for the uninformed, it sounds cool. But actual numbers, like real world metrics, means, and business is business, that means if I spend $1 million on AI today, did I get at least $1 million of value? Right? Did I get $1 million more in sales, or did I cut $1 million in cost, or a combination of the two? If those are real numbers, and those are harder to achieve, and as this report shows, 88% of the companies are not achieving those numbers, right? But they've spent all this money, so they'll focus on the vanity numbers as opposed to the hard metrics.
Yeah, that's really good. One of the things I enjoy about you is your care for people. You care about people, whether it be the consumer, also the worker. You said in this article, do not simply aim to eliminate a percentage of your workforce to save money. And you say, in your experience, Pavan's experience, true power of AI is in how it can free up humans to do what only humans can do: build relationships,
Exactly.
navigate complex. I mean, I love that principle by which you operate, and you do this with your own business.
Exactly. Like for example, our underwriters, right? It's been a multi-year, decade plus long process. They've all been re-educated to become AI data engineers. So they spend their, when their workflow is, and when they work on exception, when they work on a document that's sent to them, like, hey, AI couldn't make a decision on this, right? And they review it, they analyze it, okay, and then they submit it back. Okay, what they're submitting back is a data analysis. Right? They follow a process so that we get the data back, and so the AI can learn from that decision process, right? So now they're actually training the AI as part of the normal workforce, and so we didn't have to lay off a single underwriter as a result, because now their knowledge is going into making smarter and smarter AI.
That's amazing. Really good. In the article, Pavan, you talk about AI should be a massive profit center, not just an IT line item cost. Rather than seeing AI can write marketing copy, consider utilizing it to identify, engage, and structure deals for a proportion of your new net leads.
Correct. So, number one use of AI in the real estate and mortgage world right now is there people are using it to create marketing, whether it's flyers or social media posts, or even copy for websites and things like that, which is great. It's a great way. It saves a lot of time, and the English and grammar is always right, which is beautiful. Although I caution you, because I've seen enough of it where I can see AI slop versus actual creative work, right? Because AI generated copy starts becoming slop after a while,
right?
So be careful with that. But nevertheless, if those things are additive, they're assistive, okay, but you got to take, and those things are kind of like in a co-pilot function,
right?
They can help your marketing teams out, you help sales teams out, they get a little bit, this takes some of that tough grunt work out of their hands, which is great, which makes your sales team more productive.
Brings greater job satisfaction. And because they're like they are being used more than just cogs in a wheel, they start actually contributing the more important parts of the transaction.
Correct. Right. So it's a good thing, and keep doing that. But you're going to see that the effect of that is on the margin, and you're not going to get big lift in, is that really increasing your sales numbers? Is that really cutting your costs down? And the answer is going to be no, unless you re-engineered their work process to be AI centric. That means have like for example, our sales team, right? Our account exec sales team, they're trained now by AI. So now we have AI that's training them on a regular basis on what to say, what not to say, on complex scenarios, that gives them the answers and so forth, right? So they're becoming better professionals because the AI has the knowledge to direct them correctly. Okay, so you see the shift where instead of the AI being a co-pilot, where you get an instruction from the salesperson and it goes and generates an email or something. Now the AI becomes a pilot and is giving the salesperson instructions that, hey, treat this account this way, or communicate like this for this kind of a problem, right? You see how the paradigm shift has to happen, and that requires a culture shift. That means you have to train your salespeople. Again, I'm using sales as an example. You have to train your salespeople to accept direction from an AI, which is a lot of organizations are going to struggle with that. Okay, so that's a very simple example of being AI first, right? Being AI centric. But a more broader example is like actually manufacturing, letting the AI process and underwrite the loan, right? And again, going back to the same example, teaching your processors that you gain nothing. In fact, you only lose time and you cause delays and create stress if you try to create that perfect file for a hypothetical underwriter who doesn't exist anymore to give you a attaboy, good job, that was a clean submission, right? There's the whole concept of a clean submission is obsolete now, right? Just get the paperwork and let the AI do its thing. And as you get stuff, let the AI process it and it builds the file for you. It is your processor underwriter at the same time. So it's a complete change in psychology and how you think about the workflow. I mean, this is an entirely different workflow.
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to workflow and rethinking and understanding it. But listeners, I really encourage you to read this article. I put a link to the article that Pavan wrote in Forbes magazine, respected business journal, that talks about this. Pavan, great article. Always fun to have you back on the podcast. Kudos to your success. I love how you put people first and putting this into a proper perspective where AI is driving profits and making a difference to free people up to do what's most important. And that's better serve the customer. Pavan, thank you and kudos to you, brother.
Thanks, David. Cheers.
Folks, I hope you enjoyed this AI update with Pavan Agarwal. It is made possible because of SunWest and because of Angel AI, also Celligence, which is the company that Pavan created to create Angel AI. Thank you so much, Pavan, for this interview. Listeners, thank you for sharing it with others. Again, our goal is to bring you meaningful AI updates of what's happening in the marketplace, especially in the mortgage space. Have a great rest of your day and look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great week.
You've been listening to Lykken on Lending. Our passion is to bring you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. So on this show, if you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, it's your go-to source for all things mortgage. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Lykken on Lending.